Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It is our great pleasure to welcome you here, and we are Director General of the Environment Agency of Skopnes, Mojca Dolina, Permanent Representative of Slovenia with WMO, and Her Excellency Anita Tukan. So, also in the name of the Slovenian Meteorological Society, I also welcome you here. We are really honored to welcome here our distinguished guests, and our guests are Professor Celeste Saulo, Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization, and Dr. Kornelija Radić. She is Director of the Regional Office Europe at the World Meteorological Organization. So we are truly excited to have this opportunity to have these distinguished guests here at our premises. And as the agenda of the Secretary General is very, very busy today, not to lose time, I think that we should just start with the welcome speech delivered by Mojca Dolina. So Mojca, please, can you take the floor?
Thank you very much, Tanya, and good afternoon to everybody, Your Excellencies, dear colleagues, dear friends. It is really honor for me to welcome Secretary General of World Meteorological Organization, Professor Celeste Saulo, here at ARSO during her visit to Slovenia. And very, very warm welcome also to her entourage, Dr. Kornelija Radić, Director of the Regional Office for Europe, and a warm welcome also to our Ambassador, Her Excellency Ms. Anita Tukan. Professor Saulo has been an exceptional leader in the field of meteorology and climate science. And under her leadership, the World Meteorological Organization continues to address global challenges like extreme weather and climate change. And Professor Saulo, under her leadership, the World Meteorological Organization continually emphasizes the importance of meteorological data and information in informative decisions that are making the decisions more exact. And she's a passionate advocate for cooperation between hydrometeorological services. Her vision continues to inspire advancement both in meteorological science and public awareness. The World Meteorological Organization has a very rich history in supporting climate and meteorological services. From its beginning on, it has provided global coordination, expertise, and especially important operational standards. The WMO provides its member countries the environment for collaboration on weather observation and forecasting, climate monitoring, and disaster preparedness. Also, our agency, as well as its predecessors, has a very rich history in collaborating with WMO. Many of our experts has been active in WMO initiatives, and ARSO is also participating in quite some of WMO-supported projects. We see this visit of Professor Saulo here in Slovenia not only as a sign of good cooperation so far, but also as the opportunity to strengthen our common endeavor in the field of meteorology and climate science. The ever-changing environment, and here I don't mean only physical environment, but also technological environment with AI and supercomputers and big data, is posing our meteorological science new opportunities for the development, as well as the challenges for its implementation. So I'm really looking forward to hear Professor Saulo insights in how can we, meteorologists, climatologists, and hydrologists, through collective efforts and international collaboration, strengthen our role and become even more useful for the society and in these new circumstances. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to my colleagues from Slovenian Environment Agency and members from Slovenian Meteorological Society who are with us today. Due to your dedication and expertise, we can be very proud of the level of meteorological and climatological science here in Slovenia today. So once again, a very, very warm welcome to you, Professor Saulo, and all of you who are today with us. I wish you to enjoy the interesting lecture of Professor Saulo and also the fruitful discussions and exchanges that will possibly follow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mojca, and we are now really excited to hear what the Secretary General of WMO has prepared for us. And thank you for your kindly acceptance of our invitation here to make a presentation for our audience. So the employees of the Environment Agency and also members of the Meteorological Society. So the floor is yours, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to be here with you today. I want to, of course, express my appreciation for the government of Slovenia, for our colleagues here, and also Mojca. Thank you very much for your warm welcoming. Thank you very much for being here as the head of the Slovenian Meteorological Society, which inspires a lot, because I think it's meteorological societies have a strong role to play currently and in the near future. And of course, it's my pleasure to be here with you, colleagues. I feel like home. As you know, I started my career in the university, and then I worked as the director of my Met service in Argentina for 9 years. So I learned a lot from my colleagues from the Met service, a lot, many things that I really enjoyed. And so combining my university or research experience with the operational kind of vibe you have here, like, oh, everything is running, rushing, everything has to be done yesterday. I learned many things, and that's why I could also be part of the World Meteorological Organization from a different perspective, trying to see what's the role of an international organization, how this international organization can help our agenda as Met Services, and how we as Met Services can contribute, how we see ourselves as part of a broader machine. And so when I speak to an audience like you, I feel like home. So thank you very much for being here, for joining us today. And as the title of this presentation is Building the Block of International Cooperation, because what I want to convey here is that this is something we do together. It's not the WMO there in Geneva and you here in Slovenia and other colleagues here and there. It's like a family. We are a family. We behave as a family. We recognize each other. So we need to use this superpower, I say, the superpower of being meteorologists to really, meteorologists and hydrologists, please don't feel disregarded, to really understand what's the role we are playing these days, because it has changed a lot. I'm not ashamed to say that I'm 60 years old, and since I finished the university, it has happened, a lot has happened. And one of my nicest, and I need to share this with you because my PhD advisor indicated me to start to work with a regional model. The name was LAM, Limited Area Hibu Model, and it was developed in Yugoslavia by Janjic. And that manual of that model came to me in Yugoslavia. I said, oh, okay, my mentor does not want me to really achieve my PhD in a reasonable time, I have no idea. But I have the best remembers from those years, and I would say that Janjic was really an outstanding scientist. He brought numerical weather prediction worldwide to an excellent level. And thanks to him, I am a completely fan of numerical weather prediction. So I think it's good to start with that story. That it really attached me with you. So let's go a little bit through an introduction of what the WMO does. And I know that you know, but possibly we can revisit what you think and what I think that we are doing collectively. So we are a United Nations specialized agency for weather, climate and water, and we are 193 members that we aim to support the resilience and sustainable development of all nations, especially the most vulnerable in the face of weather, climate, and water events. So, some keywords here: UN specialized agency. We are not just an organization that gathered because of a common interest. We are recognized to be the authoritative voice on weather, climate, and water. The other key word here I would like to highlight is sustainable development for all, because what we do contributes to sustainable development, because we bring information that is crucial for many, many areas, and we need to be aware of the value of what we do. So here you have how we contribute to observations, data exchange and modeling. We prepare forecast products. We work on the service provision. Let's say we need to translate model outputs into something that is more or less actionable, and we are in the decision support area. All what we do, in a way or another, impacts the Sustainable Development Goals. Food security, energy transition, water security. There are many, many. Zero hunger, health, of course, climate action, sustainable life in the sea. Everything we do impacts here. But we need to be aware of this. And leaving our office, sometimes we don't have the vision of the value of what we do into this wider area. And of course, research and development, of course, we develop standards, we work on capacity development, we also bring education and training, and this means monitor and evaluation. All the time we are monitoring and evaluating what we do in order to perform better. This is what we as a community, and you as part of this community, actually do. Of course, we are organized following a strategic plan that all the member states agreed on, which is the WMO strategic plan. I will not go into the details, but this strategic plan covers both the operational activities and some flagship initiatives that I will share with you what's the current status of those flagship initiatives. But you will recognize certainly, and you will see yourselves here in the long-term goals. We need to improve the qualities of the services we provide. We need to improve the infrastructure and the system we build on our forecasts, for example, and our service system. We need to build on science that it's not general science, it's targeted sciences to really embrace the specific needs we have. Of course, we need to provide support to members, and we need to be a smart organization. And let me just share with you how we are trying to deliver on all of this. I know you are familiarized with complex figures. It's an illness of this community to prepare complex figures. We try to put a lot of information in the same figure. This is kind of but I will try to go through the important things I see in this figure. What the WMO does has to be member-centered. As when you provide a forecast, has to be user-centered to be meaningful. What we do needs to be member-centered. So for me, it's not about WMO, it's about what WMO brings to Slovenia. What does it bring to this sub-region? What does it bring to Argentina? It has to be member-centered. That's why we organize into regional associations. You are part, of course, of Europe. And then there are two main areas. One, and I know you are engaged in both of them. We have a commission, it's intergovernmental structure, Commission for Observation, Infrastructure and Information System, INFCOM, where more the infrastructure is discussed. I see colleagues that are supportive of this, INFCOM, thank you very much. And we have the Commission for Weather, Climate and Water Services and Applications, CERCOM, the other commission where you are also actively engaged. These are the two main technical commissions, and we also have a research board because I said that science should be one of the transversal components of the organization. Why do we need these intergovernmental structures in infrastructure and in services? Because of the standards, because of all the mandatory work we had to deliver, and we need those frameworks to be equal worldwide. You need to say when you read 1 degree temperature here, it has to be the same in Japan. It has to be the same. And for that to happen, we need a strong collaboration, and that is the DNA of the WMO. Of course, we don't do this in the vacuum. We do it for something. We do it to address disaster risk reduction, which is international global agenda. We do it for the sustainable development, and we do it for mitigation and adaptation. That's where this circle expands. You, as part of this community, are serving the wider global agenda for sustainable development, for disaster risk reduction, and for mitigation and climate adaptation and mitigation. That is what you do with your every single day work. So we are organized, and you have the representation in the Congress, and then we have substructures that meet frequently on an annual basis to deal with all these technicalities that we have here. But in the end, we need to be aware that we are member-driven and member-centered. If we fail on that, we are failing our own, all the purpose we have. Let me go now through the climate change and this as a driver of what we do, the climate change agenda. Nothing new for you, certainly, but 2024, it has already been announced by us, thanks to the information gathered by you, that this is a record-breaking year across many indicators, and we reached 1.55 degrees on top of the pre-industrial era. And this is another value of the WMO. It's not only one data set that is showing this. There is a collection of 6 data sets that are showing this. This brings robustness to our messaging. 6 different data sets generated across the world indicate this value. So this is the current situation. It's not only about temperature, as you know, it's about CO2 concentration. It's growing and growing and growing and growing. And sea level rise has an impact, has the rate of change of sea level rise has duplicated in 10 years. Of course, accelerating glacier mass loss and continued ocean warming. And this is just a schematic over Europe of the huge amount of extreme events that we are experiencing on an every year basis. So here we are. This is where Europe is currently. So we also issue a European State of the Climate. This is a joint report with Copernicus, Climate Change Services, and WMO. 2023 was already issued, and we are working with Cornelia and you and Copernicus, and possibly April will be the launch of the report for 2024. But just to highlight, Europe has been warming twice as fast as the global average. That's the current situation of climate. The fastest warming region on Earth is the Arctic. More frequent summer heat waves, changes in the pattern of precipitation, frequency and severity of extreme events are increasing. And we are expecting that 2024 is likely to be the warmest on record. And for your country, you already know that it has been the warmest on record. Nothing new, but just to highlight that we are working together in an environment that is not like this. When I was a student struggling with Yangic manual, but it's grown like this. This is the environment where we are working. It's completely different. We need agility, we need to be adapting to a different request from the outside. And it's not just by chance. It is because the weather was like this, and now it is like this. Okay, how is the report for Europe structured? It will be structured the same as last year. So in terms of extreme events, you are familiar with this. The most frequent are heat waves and wildfire, droughts, heavy precipitation and floods, severe windstorms, and marine heat waves. Those are the main extreme events that are affecting Europe currently. So this is, I would say, the global picture. Climate change is here. The reality is completely different. We have to respond to a completely different reality. So how we handle that? Because we are more or less doing our job, and we need to adjust to something that is changing rapidly. And that is where it comes from global to regional to local kind of approaches. And I want to highlight what you, Slovenia, and also are doing to support us. So, for example, drought. Drought is a big issue for this Southeast Europe region, and it's a very nice example where the monitoring and early warning of a drought needs to be combined with risk and impact assessment, and needs to, in order to have risk reduction, you need an integrated drought management, you need policies, and it's quite relevant that you are part of this international integrated drought management program that is 10 years old now, thanks to being the leaders of DMC SCEC that we will go through. So this is a kind of global framework for navigating the complexities of droughts. And this is the kind of regional approach that you are leading, which is the Drought Management Center for Southeastern Europe under your leadership, and is covering all this area. And so, you know, this coordinates and facilitates the development, assessment, and application of drought risk management tools and policies in Southeast Europe. You can see how it's changing. It's not about less rain. We are not speaking about millimeters of rain here. We are speaking about tools and policies in Southeast Europe. That is how we need to translate the information from product-driven precipitation or less precipitation and below normal precipitation to policy making around this below normal precipitation. And this is part of the exercise you are doing, which is quite relevant and important. Of course, the idea is improving drought preparedness and reducing drought impacts. And it has been founded by NMHSs from 13 countries in the region. But yes, of course, if we don't have all these countries playing together as one, possibly it will lack the enough support. But currently, thanks to you, it's a successful story. But I would say that we need to empower the region to support it, the development of this kind of a strategy, because this translates the global mandate into sub-regional priorities. Maybe drought is not a problem for other regions in the world, but when this is a problem, we need to put in place some sub-regional arrangements. This is the global drought mosaic to share with you, where we have world national drought monitors. No? So national drought monitors are available in many countries, except for many regions in Africa, and some regions in Europe that do not have national drought monitors. However, when you move into regional drought monitors, at least the regional efforts are in place, covering many more areas, and I would like to highlight in particular Africa, for example, they have a regional approach. So from global to regional to national, I think that this is something that we need to keep in mind. That's the importance of what we do at the national level, how it reflects in the regional and in the global levels, and becomes coherent across the world. I mentioned to you that I was going to touch on some of the WMO priorities, and then on the flagship initiatives. What are the flagship initiatives? These are concrete examples of problems that WMO identifies as being very crucial or critical for the time being. So this brings an agenda where we can concentrate and put more effort to develop and run faster together. So that's the main purpose of having flagship initiatives. This is not my selection of flagship initiatives. It's members that they recognize this as flagship initiatives. Members consider this as absolutely priority activities for their agenda. And the early warnings for all is one of those. What does it mean? So the driver for this initiative is very clear. Around 3.6 billion people live in contexts that are highly vulnerable to climate change. That is a reality. This is something we cannot deny. So what can we do? What's our role in this context? Well, given the accelerating path of rate of climate change, we need a unified approach to disaster mitigation, and we recognize that, of course, everywhere it is clear that disasters are set to increase by 40% before 2030. 40% more than we are handling today. 2030 is 5 years from now. You are struggling to forecast for the extreme events you are already experiencing. Imagine 40% more. That's your agenda, my agenda, our collective agenda. And weather extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and intense. We all know extreme temperature events will triple by 2030. Lives and livelihoods are at risk. Disaster costs are rising, costing billions of dollars in economic losses. International collaboration is essential. That's why we are part of this Early Warnings for All initiative. However, only half of the world's countries reported having sufficient capacity to alert their citizens about the impending hazardous weather conditions. So that's why we put this in place. If only half of the world countries are able to cope with this, which is a universal challenge, we need to help them. So that is why all the members of the WMO together, you are part of this effort, working on improving the early warning system worldwide. I will not go into the details, but I brought this QR code if you want to scan it, or I leave it here. There is a monitor. This is a monitoring system here where you can check what is the current status of early warnings for all implementation across the world. And you will see where we are, and hopefully we will cover not only the least developed world and the small island developing states, which are the priority because they are more vulnerable, but we are moving forward into the developing world and the developed world as well, because it's not no news in recognizing that the developed world, like Spain with Valencia or the wildfires in the US, are affecting everyone. So this is for you to follow where we are in terms of early warnings. But what I would like to say again, and I would like to highlight this kind of global, regional, and sub-regional efforts. Globally, we recognize that the Early Warnings for All initiative is very relevant, but we need to understand that there are many pieces to put in place to deliver a successful early warning system. And you are very good at this, so I don't think I need to go into the details, but just to highlight that there are 4 main pillars. The first pillar is that we need to understand or have disaster risk knowledge. That is more on the agenda of UNDRR, the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, because it has to do with risk analysis, risk management. Then it comes us with the detection, monitoring, analysis, and forecasting of hazards, what we call the pillar number 2, where WMO has the leadership in this initiative. We are all working together, by the way, but these are the pillars. The third pillar is warning dissemination and communication. We need to make sure that the early warnings reach everyone, regardless whether you use WhatsApp, you use a radio, you watch TV, or you hear some kind of announcment. You need to be reached by the early warning. Otherwise, it's useless. So communication is a key component, and it's led by ITU, International Telecommunication Union, and then community preparedness and response capabilities, which are crucial as well. In this case, at the global scale, is led by the Red Cross. But now, so those are the leaders. And here, just to highlight that Europe has disaster resilient goals, and early warnings for all fits very well in Europe strategy. And each pillar that I have highlighted, pillar 1, 2, 3, 4, can be identified into the European Union strategy to anticipate, prepare, alert, respond, and secure. So again, it's global from regional. And then your role here in the Southeast European multi-hazard early warning system that you are leading and you are serving thanks to your implementation of Aladdin numerical weather prediction model of CNews. Over this huge domain, by the way, it's a huge domain where you are running this model at a very high resolution, I believe 2.5 kilometers, to provide the input needed by the countries that cannot run this kind of models for them to have an early warning system in place. So here you become relevant not only for your own application, but for a region that without your assistance wouldn't be able to provide the first stage of early warnings. So thanks to this work, thanks to your efforts, this region is better prepared to handle these extreme events. Also, I would like to highlight, and I'm sure you know it, and because you use it on a daily basis, but HumanNet and activities are very critical for the success of early warnings for all. Because when we say early warnings for all, really is for all. We can start with the less developed world and support them, but it's for all. You've been suffering floods in 2024, in 2023, so you need also your early warning system in place, and you have it, but you have it thanks to your government, to your effort, and also to this collaboration between institutions at the European level, where you have a nice mosaic of radar information, and you have the Meteo Alarm, which is the platform to share the warnings actually. So that was one of our flagship initiatives. Why? We need strong efforts to improve the quality of the early warnings because we are exposed to more extreme events and we need to bring answers to these issues. The other flagship initiative is called GBON, Global Basic Observing Network. What's the problem here? Why did we identify this as a flagship initiative? The Global South is lacking observations. And you are meteorologists, you know, if your initial data is poor, your forecast will be even worse. So improving the quantity and quality of data, particularly in the Global South, is an objective. It's a collective objective where we bring experts from all over the world. This is, for example, how the operational network looked in January last year, 1 year from now. So where you see blue, it's that the country is compliant with the Global Basic Observing Network, the country or the region. Where you see reds is that you don't have enough data. And you are all meteorologists or hydrologists or understand the importance of having worldwide coverage of data. So if we don't have more data over Africa, for example, sand and dust storms cannot be properly identified, forecasted, or anything. So it's about the global impact of local observations that is more important. And WMO accepted, the member states accepted the need to move towards a basic state where all these countries are compliant with the Global Basic Observing Network. And to put that in place, there is a systematic observation financing facility called SOF that helps members meet this obligation because many countries need financial support to comply with GBON. That is not the case over Europe, as you can see. You are compliant with the Basic Observing Network. However, for you, a key challenge is to be compliant with the Regional Basic Observing Network, a little bit further, more resolution, I would say, that is needed to address the regional challenges. So currently, the region is working to improve the density and the regularity, I would say, the homogeneity of the network within the different regions, and particularly Europe, to improve the quality of the forecast regionally. And that is where it comes, for example, your role as regional instrument center, and the importance that for the world and for this region have the work that you are doing thanks to this calibration center. Thanks to this, you are serving the region to have comparable, traceable data. It's not minor. It's absolutely essential to rely on others' measurements through this calibration center. So thank you very much for your support. This is the other flagship initiative that we have. Why do we have this initiative? This is the Global Greenhouse Gas Watch, G3W. Why did we put in place this initiative as members? If we move ahead of time, if we move back in time, we wouldn't imagine possibly the importance of having interconnected measurements of temperature, wind, precipitation with the same standards all over the world. But now, thanks to that, we know that the global temperature is 1.55 degrees above the pre-industrial era. What happens with the CO2? Or what happens with methane? Where are these gases going? We don't have an operational observing network for greenhouse gases. We have efforts at the academia, within the academia. But we don't have the operational kind of collection. We need to move to that second step. We need to move there. And the WMO and the Met services, the hydromet services, are the ones that have the capability to really be a hub for these observations, share them operationally, almost operationally, to inject them into models that can also provide forecasts of air quality, for example, or pollution or whatever. The idea of this initiative is to really move to the next level, to support WMO members in mitigation actions undertaken to implement the Paris Agreement. So it's about, it's the complexity of CO2 or methane or other greenhouse gases is very, I would say, different from temperature or other variables that we are used to measure. Because it's about sources and sinks, because it's the balance what matters. So if you don't have an understanding of how you are emitting, but at the same time, how much is sinking within your territory, it's possible that you can put in place policies that are not the best ones to address the concentration of X gas. It's about understanding and measuring the fluxes, understanding and measuring the concentrations, where you can see really the impact of having a well-coordinated network where you understand sources and sinks at the same time. Because, for example, we know that forests are sinks for CO2. At the same time, under droughts and because of wildfires, they are becoming sources of CO2. Canada, in 2023, was one of the biggest emitters of CO2. But that was not because of their industrial production. It was because of the wildfire. So where we are, we need to understand that. We need to address that. And the only way to address that is through science and data. The other, it's not a flagship initiative, but it's quite important, is the water agenda. And this goes also from a global kind of approach to regional and to local approaches. Unfortunately, the data exchange in terms of water is not the same as in meteorology, you know. So it's hard sometimes to share data between different countries regarding rivers and rivers discharge and so on. But certainly we identify through this effort, WMO Hydro SOS, the need to have a hydrological monitoring and reporting system for assessing surface and groundwater status. So the idea is really to, yes, again, move in the same direction as we moved in meteorology to move in hydrology, to avoid the losses and all the risks associated with lack of water. I mentioned this, so I will skip this, and I will go to the regional efforts, and where you are also a leader. You are a leader on Saba, both in the hydromet integrated system and flash flood warning system. Thank you for your efforts because they are impacting all this region. And there is another initiative that is called Flash Flood Guidance System for this sub-region, where we also would like to have more support to the response to flash floods over other basins besides Saba. Then it comes cryosphere. Cryosphere is also a big topic. Again, it's a topic that is maybe it's not obvious everywhere, but because of glaciers melting, it's part of the water security agenda. Cryosphere is, I would say, everywhere. Cryosphere is about from snow-covered glaciers, ice shields, iceberg, sea, lake, river ice, permafrost, and solid precipitation. All of this is the cryosphere. And honestly, we understand very little about the cryosphere because our measurements are quite poor in terms of understanding the cryosphere. So if we don't understand how this system behaves, it's very hard to believe or really to understand the projections in terms of glaciers retreat. But at the same time, if we cannot rely on the projections with respect to ice sheet or glaciers, how are we going to inform governments in terms of water availability? Don't forget that glaciers are the main source for water availability. So understanding cryosphere is kind of a critical aspect where we need to move forward. We are lagging behind. And this year, for the first time, we started to commemorate the International Year of Glacier Preservation. This is led by WMO and UNESCO, but it has been put forward by one of the countries that is largely affected by this problem, which is Tajikistan in Central Europe. So again, it's about member-centered approach. This is a problem for many members, for many states in the globe. How are we going to deal with the cryosphere? I think that, yes, this was a presentation with all our flagship initiatives. You mentioned AI. Certainly technology and innovation comes to help us. The challenge is how we use that. And we are, from the WMO perspective, we want to drive and to bring AI into the operations as soon as possible because we are lagging behind. When I say we, I say, okay, we have the developed med services or TCMWF and other big players that are taking the lead, but particularly for the middle med services and those that are lagging behind, AI will be critical. Will be critical if they know how to use it. So WMO will put in place a special effort to really close what is called the so-called digital divide. What is the digital divide translated into meteorology? This is very high in the agenda of the UN system. The digital divide for us is the reduced capacity of a small med service to change their practices from the traditional numerical weather prediction approach to the machine learning approach. I do not believe that we will get rid of the numerical or the dynamic models, but we will need to put in place machine learning systems for sure. And particularly small med services are struggling to move into this new generation, and we will try to do our best to support your moves into this direction. So we have the idea of putting through INFCOM to put as much effort as possible to help you move into that direction. So this is another complicated figure, but with this I finish. This will be my last slide. It's complicated, but I love it. It's a squid. I know you cannot recognize a squid, but it is. That's why you need me to translate the figure. What I like the most in this figure is that it tries to tell the story of what we do and how we become relevant in the wider picture. So if we go from this green area here, one leg of the squid, is where the observational infrastructures and all the pre-processing methods are. But thanks to this observational infrastructure, we perform the observations, we perform monitoring, we generate information from Earth system modeling, we use data simulation, we use very complex techniques, we move into supercomputing, data management, big data, AI, and so on. Starting from here, we end up here. What we do through this leg is not usable. Nobody except us can understand a single thing out of this. So here is where it comes the participation of specialized users that can digest this complex information and can translate them into using also AI products, human interface, web services, real-time distribution to provide environmental services, decision-making, so that we can really translate this complex information into something that is actionable for all the users. But then through this head here, this is, I would say, the most critical head, we need to come back, interact with the users, and work in the co-design to improve, to understand what works or what is not working, do the proper partnership, look for resources, network projects, and so on, to improve our observations, to improve our methods, and the value cycle can continue. And we can recognize where you've been working. Thanks to you, and you have been serving the regional and global communities. Thanks to your regional calibration, that you support the global community, thanks to the Opera network of radars, thanks to SAVA, integrated system for hydrology, thanks to the Sea News, where you are providing early warning system, thanks to Meteoalarm, thanks to the flash flood warning system over SAVA, thanks to the DMC, thanks to all of this machine moves. Without your support, without your engagement, without your knowledge, this would be impossible. So that's why I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we really appreciate that also you incorporated in your presentation some of the services we are providing. So really, thank you very much.